All right, welcome to Live, Lead, and In Between, a podcast for leaders who want to be better at leading in life and everywhere in between. My name is Travis Jones, and I am the host for this podcast, and it is early morning. I'm getting ready to go for a run, and thought I would come on here and actually do a quick recording, and I shaved up a little bit. I went on a run the other day, and it was humid and nasty, and I was like, oh, this beard's not going to work for a little bit, so I had to trim it down. So, but hey, I just wanted to do kind of an update for the Danger Close podcast. Now, when I made that podcast, I made some allusions to some things, and apparently that caused some folks to speculate about some stuff, some weird stuff. But I just want a quick update on that thing is still in play, but also that the speculation behind some of this speculations that are out there have nothing to do with what people are thinking. Number one, it has nothing to do with the church I serve, right? So just want to throw that out there for a blanket statement to put that kind of stuff to bed. But, it's always interesting when people speculate because they kind of create their own narrative about things and try to put pieces together and things like that. So when the time is right, I'll address what it was and is and things like that. But until then, don't speculate on that kind of stuff. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, great. Don't worry about it for all my 3 listeners out there. But today, the whole thought behind this podcast is about the importance of connection, why we're having trouble, why we have trouble doing so with other people. Now, I think I mentioned this earlier in the other podcasts that I've done, that I was getting into radios a bit, and I actually got my GMRS license, which doesn't take a whole lot. You just pay the FCC, and then you get to start learning and playing around with GMRS. It's not like an amateur radio license. It's one of those things where, it's already preset and all those things. So I've got that, and I've been listening to these different radio clubs over different repeaters over the air and having conversations, because radio is like that. You can listen to people over the air and things like that. And as I've been doing that, I've noticed that, these folks that are on these radio clubs, they're just on there to connect with one another. I hear them reach out to one another with their tags and stuff like that and talk and things like that. And it gives this greater license for people to communicate with one another, or just a different way. So as I started down the path of this podcast, I began to think about that. I began to think about all the different ways that we have to connect with others and how sometimes that is difficult for us. And three of the top reasons, 3 top reasons came to my mind for why we have problems connecting with one another. And I've got a bonus one that popped in my head as well. But I want to share those with you today. I want to share what I think is behind those, and then how to address that from a leadership standpoint, whether it's in yourself or in someone else. So let's start with the first one. And these are statements that we usually have that are internal into our, the way who we are, right? We just have them. They're there. And the first one is, if they really knew me, they wouldn't really like me. So that's the first statement. If they really knew me, they would not really like me. And so there's an ugly truth behind that. We'll get to that in a second. But before we do that, let's just run through all 3. So first one is, if they really knew me, they wouldn't really like me. The second one is, is I'm afraid of what others may think of me, which is connected to the first one. And then the third one is, if I get too close to someone, I might get hurt. And then your bonus one is, I think I know more than others. I call this one the teenage gift. And I remember being a teenager thinking I knew more than other folks and things like that. And so those are the 3, and then the bonus 4. And these 3, these 3 things are connected to one another, and they all feed off one another, and they can create this downward spiral that is hard to reconcile, hard to get out of. Like I said, I've had experience with all 3 of these connection problems with others. And as leaders, we need to be aware of these reasons so that we can help others overcome them and overcome them in ourselves as well. And as a matter of fact, we should be first and foremost aware of them in ourselves. So let's take a look and get through this. But before that, I'm going to have a little coffee because it is early, right? So always coffee. So the first one, if they really knew me, they would not like me. So here's the ugly truth behind this this statement, this internal statement that we have. And the reason it's a hard pill to swallow. The ugly truth is that you don't like you. So you think that other people don't like you. And the question I like to ask when this comes up is, how many actual people do you really know, right? Or how many actual people do How many actual people really know you is a better way to put it. First and foremost, when it comes to people liking you, I mean, who cares? But when I ask the question, how many actual people really know you, for the most part, that number is going to be extremely small, sometimes in the single digits small. And I'm not saying it should be a huge number, because I don't think that that's a reality or a possibility for you to have a huge number of people that really, just know who you are, like down to your core. And nor do I think that's a healthy thing for, let's say 100 people to really know you down to your core. But a couple solid ride or die folks are where you need, including your spouse if you're married. Now, I have two toddlers that are very close in age, and they're ride or die with each other right now, man. They are, and ride or die, if you don't know what that means they're the ones, they're here for it, right? Regardless of what goes on. And my daughter had a doctor's appointment where she had to have a little bit of blood drawn, or finger prick, right? And that's a big deal for a toddler. And her brother wanted to make sure that he was there with her, and he sat with her and he held her hand and made sure that she didn't feel like she was by herself. And they really know each other, because they're brother and sister, and they're toddlers at this point, so there's nothing there that they don't know about each other. But you need a couple of solid ride or die folks, like I said, including your spouse if you're married. Now, I want to give a side note to this. If you're married and your spouse isn't on that list, then your marriage is already in trouble, because your spouse should be like the ride or die person for you. So you need to take a look at that. If you can give a list of people, like 2 or 3 people that are really, really close to you and really know you, and your spouse isn't one of them, you need to start work on that real quick, because that marriage is not going to last if your spouse is not one of them. But you need people who know you and are still okay with you. And in that relationship, you can return the favor. So what does that relationship look like? What do those relationships look like? Now, we think we know what they look like with regard to our spouses, but those relationships look like this. If you have a friend and you can, and you have a friend like this, or your spouse, this is the kind of relationship where you can actually tell them anything. You can tell them anything without feeling 1 ounce of judgment coming from them. Now, I say that, but yeah, you may kid around, and I had friends like this where we would just kid around, right? Somebody would tell something that was embarrassing. There was no judgment, but we would mess with them like crazy because we loved them, right? So you may kid around, but they've got your back no matter what. These are, when I say ride or die, that's what they mean. These are the folks these are the hide the body folks. That's what I like to say, right? Interesting side note, my wife, when I say hide the body, it popped in my head. She likes to watch this TV show called Cold Case, where they go and they solve cold murder cases that have, unsolvable for like 20, 30 years, things like that. And for some odd reason, she always likes to watch these shows at nighttime before we're going to bed. And I'm laying there and I'm like, so we're going to watch a show about someone who was murdered as we go to sleep. And I'm like, I just can't, but hey, no judgment, because then she also will turn around and watch a Hallmark show right after that. So she's a very dynamic woman. But these are the hide the body folks. These relationships are actually, and they're designed to be liberating. And when you are around these folks, you will feel absolutely free to be you. Free to be you. So how do we combat the line of thinking, if they really knew me, they wouldn't like me? How do we combat that? Well, here's how I have figured out how to do it. And I think this works for pretty much everybody. But in order to combat that line of thinking, you have to approach the ugly lie, the ugly truth, that you don't like you. And that is, you're going to have to spend time with yourself. You're going to seriously take an afternoon or a series of them and just hang out with yourself. And what that is most people don't like to do that. Most people don't like to spend time with their thoughts, because they don't like themselves. But the only way to get past that is to spend time with yourself, being alone with your thoughts. Let the issues you have come to the surface. And here's the fun thing. They come to the surface, but most of the time those issues come to the surface with a solution as well. No headphones, no music, just you, alone with you. And the more you do that, the more you become okay with you. Being alone with yourself is a big deal. A lot of people can't do that because they don't like who they're alone with. Now, what I do, like I'm going to do it here probably in about an hour, is I like to go trail run. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Now, here's the thing. I start off with music, And about 20 minutes in, I turn it off. I start off with music just to get my flow and my cadence right when I'm running. But then I turn it off. I put the headphones up, and I just go, right? And I'll think, and I'll talk, and I'll talk to God during all that. But for the most part, I'm alone with my own thoughts, and God directs those kind of things. So I get alone with myself, so I really know who I am. And I'm there for like an hour or two, and then I'm done, and that's kind of thing. And I do that. I try to do that like once a week, both for health purposes and for sanity purposes, and it helps me in being alone with myself. So in those times when I am alone with myself, I'm okay with myself, right? And so when we go back to that line that if they really knew me, they wouldn't like me. If I'm okay with me, I don't care what you think, right? And that leads directly into the second one, which is I am afraid of what others might think of me. So I'll just not, right? I just won't connect because I'm afraid of what somebody else is going to think about me. Now, the first thing listen at me. It's early, guys. The first thing I'll say is, who cares? Who cares what someone thinks about you? You be you and let them be them. I mean, be secure in yourself. And that's as simple as it gets. You really have to be comfortable with being yourself. And actually, most people are attracted to people who are authentically themselves. And honestly, most people can spot a fake a mile away. They can spot somebody being fake a mile away. And you can only be fake for so long before the real you comes out. So here's the thing. Be completely comfortable with your idiosyncrasies. They are a part of you. Be comfortable with them, right? And also get comfortable with the reality that you're not perfect. And you'll make mistakes. And yes, those mistakes will occur around other people. Lord knows I've had my fair share of that. When I was earlier on in ministry, we went out to Gateway Church in Dallas, Fort Worth. There was a leadership conference out there, and there was a bunch of our staff that went, and we were connected to some of the leaders out there, and we went out to lunch with them. And it was like this really cool, like steakhouse kind of thing, but it had a Lazy Susan in the middle. I couldn't even tell you the name of it, but there was a bunch of guys there. And, deep inside myself, I wasn't comfortable with my idiosyncrasies and all these things. And I was really afraid of what others might think. So I was really guarded about how I would connect with others because I didn't want people to think poorly of me because of, what was going on internally within me. And I remember having just a hard time dealing. Like I would have these guys come up from the church and try to talk to me, and I would talk to them, but I really wouldn't engage the way that like I normally would because I was afraid of what they would think about me. And that really didn't do me any justice, right? It didn't help me make any connections whatsoever. And I left the whole conference feeling like, okay, I got some stuff out of the conference, but I missed opportunities to connect with folks for no other reason other than I was worried about what they would think about me. I mean, literally, I was worried about, and here's the thing. Most people aren't thinking that, right? I don't go around thinking about people in that way, and most people don't go around thinking about you that way. So if someone doesn't like you, oh well. Now, on the flip side of that, you be you, but this is a word of wisdom to leaders out there, and just in general, don't give people ammunition not to like you. I mean, it's one thing to not like a jerk because they're being a jerk. It's another thing not to like, just to like someone, right? If you give people ammunition, they'll take it. They'll take it and they'll put it in their figurative gun, and now they've got ammunition and reasons not to like you. So don't give people reasons not to like you. So that second one is I'm afraid of what others might think, so I'll just not. I mean, again, who cares what anybody else thinks? Life's too short to worry about that. You're going to mess up in front of people. Just mess up boldly and own it, right? I've been listening to, I discovered him a while ago, but NF, right? And he's a rapper, and really enjoy his music. I listen to it while I run. He doesn't swear or anything like that in his music, which is really kind of cool. All his verses and bars, they actually have substance to them. And as I was listening to him, he talks about being comfortable with himself, and it's just one of those things where be comfortable with who you are. Don't care about what anybody else thinks. Tell them to pound sand. You don't like me? Okay. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Sometimes I'm not my own cup of tea. So I get it. No worries, no harm, no foul, but I'm going to be me, you be you. God bless you kind of thing. So don't be afraid of what others may think. Just connect anyway, because you're going to mess up, right? You're not perfect. And then the third one, before we get to the bonus, is if I get close to someone, and this is a biggie, and again, these are all connected. If I get close to someone, I might get hurt. Now, this comes from a place of previous hurt. specifically a place where you have put yourself out there and it didn't go well, right? Or maybe you thought, well, maybe they won't like me like before in the second one. You put yourself out there and no, they didn't like you, so now you're hurt, right? This comes from that place. And oddly enough, it is also connected to what I call an internal vow. And actually, it's not what I call it, that's what it is. And we're going to slip into a little bit of kind of a freedom ministry element here. But an internal vow is when you seek to avoid that thing that hurt you. You make a statement either internally or verbally that I will not be hurt like that again, or I will not let myself get close to anyone again. Now, here's the thing: you can say that out loud. That's a verbal vow, but most of the time it happens internally with people, and their thoughts are like, you know what, I'm just not going to do that. Their heart changes, and the thing is, when you make a vow like that, based off hurt, you create more hurt through isolation, and eventually hurt those who want to be close to you because you're not willing to be close to them, and you become more isolated yourself and more hurt yourself. So the thing about this connection problem is that the only way to overcome it, there's two ways to kind of overcome it. Now, number one, allow yourself to get close to someone. That's bottom line. You have to just make it happen. Just press through that. And here's the thing: the only way you don't run a risk of getting hurt by someone in a relationship or a connection is to never see someone. And the reality is that in itself hurts, to never see anybody, because we were designed to connect with one another in community. So keeping yourself from developing real relationships and connections does more damage than the potential, and I say potential, damage or hurt that could happen if you do make a connection with someone. So that's the first way. Allow yourself to get close to someone. You just got to jump in. It's like jumping in the deep end of the pool. I remember being terrified when I was younger of doing that until I did it. And it took a while of like, hold on, I'll do it in a second kind of business. And then I did it, and it was like, wow, super cool, super rewarding as a result of that. So allow yourself to get close to someone. The second way that you overcome this, you help someone overcome this, is to let them know that they can renounce that internal vow that they've made. Now, here's the thing. If you know you've made that vow internally, if you were conscious of the fact that you said, I'll never be this way, or I'll never allow this thing to happen again, then that is just a simple, you renounce it verbally. Just because there's power in the spoken word, you just simply say, and you say it to God in heaven, Father, I renounce this vow that I've made. I made it. Please break anything that's associated with this vow away from me, away from my spirit, away from my soul, because it's actually doing damage to me. And God will do that. God will do that because He wants you to have life and life abundantly, not be bound up by things like that, not be entangled by things like that. So if you know you've made the vow, if you know consciously that you've made the internal vow that I'm not going to be this way or that, then you can break it verbally just like that. That doesn't mean it might not sneak up a little bit, because those things, once you get wired in you, they try to sneak up, but you have to remember you've broken that already. The second thing is, if you don't know, because a lot of people sometimes will unconsciously make these internal vows, and they don't know whether or not they have one operating in their life. And if that's you, and you kind of have this thing kind of going on with connection, then if you're a believer, just ask God, say, Lord, through the power of your Holy Spirit, reveal to me any vows that I've made. And maybe you've got a lot, but maybe you just say, hey, reveal one or two that's affecting me right now. And here's the thing. Once He does, because He will, write it down, think about it, and then renounce it. Now that you know it, same as you did before, just speak it out. Say, Lord, I renounce this vow and ask you to break this thing off of me. Renounce it verbally, again, because there's power in the spoken word of that. So that third one, if I get close to someone, I might get hurt. It can be overcome. And as a leader, when you see it with people, you can't force people to get close to one another, but you can provide opportunities for them to get close to another person in a healthy way, so that they can begin to overcome that. And a lot of times it takes time to do that with people, or they just don't, and they wind up being more isolated, and you can always see that. So now let's move on to the bonus one. I think I know more than others. This is, again, I call this one the teenage gift, because I remember thinking that I was God's gift to my family as a teenager. And I thought I knew everything. My dad knew nothing, even though he had been around for so much longer. And then I hit that 22-year mark or 21-year mark, and I thought, wow, my dad is so much more smart than I give him credit for. My mom, right? So the I think I know more than others. The teenage gift. This one is a bonus because no one likes a know-it-all. No one likes a know-it-all. And if you need to know if this is you, if you need to know if this is you, you could just ask someone, do I like a know-it-all? Right? All right. If you always walk into the room and think you're the smartest person in the room, then chances are you are that person that thinks they know it all. And if you are that person, no judgment, but humility is your friend. Again, most people that think they're the smartest person in the room actually are not, but they think that way. I had a friend once who kind of like would pop into scenarios and groups of other friends. And this friend always had something to say about every single thing. And they knew every single thing about everything. And if you didn't believe them, just ask. And anytime we'd have a group of friends around talking, they would come up. My group of friends would scatter. They would just go, whoo. And my one friend couldn't figure out why this was happening. And it was happening because this person knew more than everybody else and made sure that everyone else was aware of just how smart they were. And no one likes that know-it-all. As a leader, I always operate as if there is someone else in the room that is way smarter than me. If I'm in the room, I don't care who it's with, they're smarter than me. Even if it's not the case, I act as if they're smarter than me because I listen better and I connect with others better. So being a know-it-all, thinking you know more than everyone else, will stifle your connection ability, your real life. It's a problem because people don't want to connect with people that already know everything, because then I've got nothing to bring to the table if you already know everything. And connection is about mutual exchange and that kind of thing. So that was my bonus one, and that just popped in there. But if you're that person, again, always operate. And again, I operate this way, but always operate that if you're in a room full of people, that there's always somebody smarter than you in that room. And even if that's not the case, you'll listen better and you will connect with others better. Because chances are it's the truth. You're not the smartest person in the room, right? You're not God's gift to everyone in the room, right? So with that said, my dogs are starting to bark, so they're ready to go out. So let's close this podcast today. And I want to talk about 2 upcoming podcasts. I was given 2 topics for. So one I've kind of been putting off because it's really I'm going to have to work on this one. But one is Loving Folks from a Distance. That's one we're going to do coming up probably in June and July, maybe. I haven't decided when we're going to actually do it. And then we're also going to talk about words, right? I had someone actually post a potential topic talking about, hey, cuss words. Are they they're just words, right? So you do a podcast about that. And I'm like, absolutely, I will. So those are coming up, and we'll throw those out there. And I haven't decided on titles, but that's the general working topics. And I would always love to hear from you. In the show notes, it's live.lead.inbetween@gmail.com. You can actually shoot me emails, give me show topics that you'd like me to handle. And then we also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. We greatly appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube and you like this, like and subscribe, share it with someone else. If you pick this up on any other audio, share it as well. Give me a like and subscribe so we can get this thing moving in the right direction. But all that said, actually nothing else to say. I'm fixing to go for a run, but this has been Live, Lead, and In Between, and I would encourage you to lead well in everything you do. Wow, here we go again. Kids running upstairs and all kinds of fun stuff happening. So that was my shameless way to try to end it, but it didn't work out that way because I'm really not good with technology. So that being said, now let's end it.